And hello, Hearts of Oak. Thank you so much for joining us on another news review. And it is great to have Betty back with us once again. Thank you so much for your time today, Betty.
You're more than welcome. Great to be back. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. California Frizz is going to take us through the news, which has a similar focus, I think, all the way through. And this is to do with a certain Elon Musk. So there's a lot to discuss, but let's bring up, maybe start with a UK individual, a UK character. We do have a few of our own characters, and did it not come up? It was Joey Barton. Let me bring Joey Barton up. And Joey Barton, ex-footballer, and always someone who has a lot to say, and it's something that we miss, I think, in the media space, in the conversation space, having out and out strong voices like this. And this was Joey talking about the issue that Elon Musk has made huge. I think on Wednesday it might have been, and this is regarding the grooming gangs in the UK, and we'll go through some of the stories. But Joey Barton says you're either with these religious rape gangs or you're against them. There's literally no middle ground. Anyone defending them or calling people far right are part of the problem. They have targeted vulnerable children based on race. They should be deported along with everyone who's complicit in this heinous crimes against minors. Any British citizen who's covered this up should be punished with the full weight of the law. A message needs to be sent. Maybe consider bringing back the death penalty. Firing squad is too good for these animals. Now, you can rely on Joey to actually say what he thinks.
He always goes all out.
He does go. He does. And I appreciate that when someone just says what they think and doesn't consider what may be the pushback against it, but just goes for it. But what when you see
behind it, though, isn't there? Like
there is. So when you tell us
a little and emotion.
Yeah. No, tell us a little about this, because it's there is a lot of raw emotion there. What were your thoughts whenever you read Joey's tweet?
Well, I think that Joey has a huge point. I think that the fact that this has long been hidden, and well, it's not actually been hidden. There's been people like Tommy that have tried to highlight and bring it to the forefront of our minds. And but what Joey is saying is, you can't be okay with this kind of behavior towards children. You either protect children or you don't. You're either okay with rape gangs doing that or you're not. So and obviously he's poured a lot of passion and emotion into that, and he's gone on to say further things, but as a whole, yes, I agree that we should not at any point in any society should we not be protecting the vulnerable, which are the children.
And I think Joey's response comes into the void that there has been some discussion, some coverage, and then it disappears. So that, for many of us living in the UK, it's built up frustration and concern at actually, where do you go? What can you do? So that kind of raw emotion comes out. But for the US audience, that is because there have been people talking about this back since Andrew Norfolk talked about it in the Times in 2012, and it has been a voice in the wilderness. And I guess Joey is, when you read that, like a modern day prophet, isn't it?
It is, but also we have to remember that, there are so many victims within this, and they were silenced. Their local authorities, the government, they weren't safeguarded. They were failed by a lot of these authorities, and I can understand why there would be a lot of frustration, anger, hurt, passion and raw emotion in their communities, because their children, it's affected the families, it's affected those children's futures. And also being somebody that's happened to, I can't imagine what that's like, but they imagine being those children that when they did open up and they did go to certain authorities for help and asked to be safeguarded, to be censored or to be made to feel like they consented, or that they were part to blame, or that they were going to be disregarded because of fear of political or racial, it's it's beyond even being able to understand, like in from their point of view. So I think that Joey is well within his rights and freedom of speech. He should be able to say that. He should be able to be, angry and passionate. And this is something that I feel like it's just they've tried to, especially the government, they've tried to brush it under the carpet, as have the local authorities and the councils and social services, the police in those areas that didn't do what they should have done, which was protect the children, listen to the children, stop this from happening. It should not have been a thing that went on for as long as it has done. And also, the victims should never have been made to feel like they were to blame, or there was something wrong with them, or that they meant nothing.
Yeah, I will maybe touch on that, some of the language that was used. But here's one of Elon's tweets. And in the UK, which is another, there are so many facets to this story and so many angles in terms of multiple failures in our services, our systems, our establishment. But he says, in the UK, serious crimes such as rape require the Crown Prosecution Service's approval for the police to charge suspects. Who was the head of the Crown Prosecution Service when rape gangs were allowed to exploit young girls without facing justice? It was Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, and he was head of the CPS from 2008 2013, which was part of the time. Now, this is a much longer. This has been going on since the late 70s. I think 1978 was the first report I've come across in a newspaper in Rotherham, and many tell us it is still happening. But gunning for Keir Starmer, Elon Musk is not afraid to go for Keir, two-tier Keir, he's called him, after the demonstrations, the riots, the frustration on immigration in the end of the summer. So, yeah, whenever you realize Keir Starmer was heading up the Crown Prosecution Service that decides what goes to court and what doesn't, then Keir Starmer does have a responsibility. I think Elon Musk is perfectly right to do this.
Yes, I think kudos to Elon, absolutely, for highlighting. First of all, I think it's amazing that I did a tweet this morning about it. It's amazing that it took for someone like Elon Musk to tweet about these rape gangs and the victims and what's been going on and how they've been failed enormously by the CPS, by their own government, by the local councils and safeguarding teams. So good for him for highlighting it. But it's trending, and it was trending yesterday and the day before, I believe, because of him, because he obviously came across it and now he is putting it out there. And it just shows the power, first of all, of X, the platform in itself, and also of public figures like Elon Musk putting it into the mainstream and saying you can't ignore this. I think it's absolutely brilliant that he's done it, and it shouldn't have come to him having to do that for it to actually be in the forefront of people's minds, for it to even be really dealt with, thought of. It's wrong, really. It's so wrong. But it's brilliant that he's doing it, and I think that him going for Keir and highlighting it, well, the truth cannot long be hidden, can it? So,
yeah. But what are your, because there are criticisms from some sections of British society. Mm-hmm. How dare we have foreign interference? He has no right to speak on anything in Britain. Do you think that's legitimate criticism of what he said?
I think it's legitimate for people to have their opinion. Everybody's entitled to it. But personally, my opinion is, if it takes for somebody that is not UK based, not in the UK, to highlight something that we cannot ignore any longer, then so be it. If that's how we have to get the truth out there, then let it be from someone elsewhere in America.
No complaint. He's also there's another one I saw he had just posted today, and that is the worst mass crime against the people of Britain ever. And it was a a post, I think it was by Mario Nafal, and he had put up about Sarah Champion, who was a Labour MP and has done a lot of work on trying to highlight this, and her figures are a million child victims. Um,
Wow.
but what I mean, Elon's just line on that tweet is just he's just posted just before we are doing this pre-record a day before the worst mass crime against the people of Britain ever. And I've heard others say that the the industrial, in fact, the industrial rape and everyone turning a blind eye. But yeah, it takes a South African, the most successful businessman now in America, to actually highlight what has happened in the last 40 years. And it's so peculiar whenever it all started to watch how it was developing. And we see Elon Musk doing positive things with Twitter, and then suddenly highlights this that you must not speak about. And he, as in Tommy, who you cannot speak about, and he puts it all together.
This is what's dreadful, is that it's we're supposed to disregard it, and it's supposed to be brushed under the carpet. They don't want people talking about it. They don't even want people to know the ins and outs of it, because it will obviously bring to surface the failings, of, like I said, these organizations that have failed the children and the victims within this, and the families, because the aftermath of all of this, it's life-changing. And yeah, I just think that it highlights also the corruption within our government. It highlights the whole issue that we're all having to live and kind of keep our mouth shut on, which a lot of us don't, um, um, for fear of being called racist, for fear of being called some sort of made up phobic, for fear of not following the narrative or saying the right thing. And I think Elon's really sort of opened the lid to that, obviously by acquiring X, but also by now tweeting himself and highlight. He has such a huge audience, millions and millions and millions of people follow him and know who he is, because he is a very well known public figure. So I just think it also is such a shame that it takes for someone like that, for something to actually be dealt with or be looked at. The mainstream media are too scared to say the truth on it, or to even really speak about it, because of, like I said, fear of being called racist or not being diverse enough or inclusive enough. It's ridiculous. It's like, we have to stop now. We have to stop with that, because the damage that is caused by that attitude is enormous, and it's not damage that is going to do our society any good.
Yep.
Future, it's really not, especially the children. And if we, like I said at the start of this, if we can't protect the children, it says something hugely about our society, because we have to, without question, we have to always protect the children.
Yep, the most vulnerable, and often this happened to those in children's homes or certain communities that maybe there was not the protection. But let me, let me touch on another post that Elon has put up, and I think Carl Benjamin, who obviously has had some run-ins with Jess Phillips. What was Carl had a quote? Nobody had this on their 2025 bingo card he put up just 2 hours ago. Elon Musk saying Jess Phillips is a rape genocide apologist. This is because she was the person who, after 4 months of ignoring requests from one of our consuls for an inquiry, has rejected it. But yeah, I mean, imagine you put Elon and Joey together in a room. I mean, that would be a phenomenal conversation.
Oh yeah. Who was that? That was Carl, wasn't it?
That was Carl. Carl said it wasn't on my 2025 bingo card or
Yeah.
something.
I mean, I know, but I also think, though, like with people like her, she's also that there's going to be other people telling her and directing her that are above her, so and again, I think that's why there's such a lack of trust within the government, because things don't get dealt with when they should have been dealt with. And if we're looking at our government and thinking, well, they're there to serve us, and they're not even serving and protecting the children, then it's we're just going to lose all faith. And that's the thing. And then the faith, like we need people to believe in. We need to believe that there's going to be good in the country, and that we're listened to, we're heard, that we're cared about. And these victims haven't been cared about. They've been failed, and people are angry. People are going to gun for people like Jess because of it, because they're going to think, well, how are you even human if you can't think that it's the right thing to do to open this, get it sorted, deal with it? It's been allowed for too long.
Yeah. I want to play a GB News clip, but I don't have in front of me. So let me come back to that, and let me bring up another post, and it connects in to Keir Starmer, or Sir
Don't say
Sir
it the way
Keir.
around.
Goodness, we could call him lots of things, but we'll try and be good.
It reminds me of Lani's hat.
What hat? The farmer hat?
Yeah.
What?
I'm not saying it. You can.
That is a good
It's
hat.
not past 9 p.m. Peter. Careful, we'll get cancelled.
We will. No, that is Lilani's hat was great whenever she brought that to the farmers demonstration. But let me bring up, here it is, and it's from the Daily Mail, and it's from, I think it's from about a year and a half ago, so it is older. But the interesting thing is, whenever a story like this is being so talked about, that it pulls in, everyone's doing their own research, and I think that's what X brings to this citizen journalism. And now you've got citizens all over the world looking through archives, pulling out stories, and showing the world, especially the Americans, who maybe don't even believe that such a thing is possible. But this is investigation after Starmer went to 21 meetings of the Sentencing Council. It decided not all child sex offenders should go to prison. And this is the weird split we have generally in politics, although the Tories have been no better, but it is kind of a left-right, how you deal with crime. And to think that the British Prime Minister was sitting in meetings where it was decided that actually, some sex offences, they must be okay. It kind of begins to explain kind of where we currently are in terms of leniency on sentencing, letting people off.
Well, I think if you're going to have that attitude, and you're going to think that child sex offenders shouldn't go to prison, or not all of them should go to prison, then you should have also be able to take responsibility for the fact that the crime rates for that specific offence is going to go up, because people are going to think that they're going to walk free. I can't understand how somebody, especially somebody who has children and is a parent, could, in that profession, be okay in the belief of not all child sex offenders need to go to prison. I think that it says something about society. If we're not going to reprimand people for hurting the most vulnerable or causing harm to the most vulnerable in society, then the right people shouldn't or aren't in the right positions, him being one of them. I think that when we look back on a lot of things that Keir Starmer has been involved in, there's been a lot of mishaps, let's just say. And I don't think it matters with left or right. Or
Labour are going to do absolutely nothing about the grooming.
Getting involved.
Let me move Patrick Christie for a moment. No, but you're right. But it kind of does,
because at the end of the day, anybody doing anything sexual or emotional or mental or anything towards children is wrong. It's disgusting. It's sick, and it needs to be dealt with appropriately. And first and foremost, children should be protected. I can't say that enough on this. I can't highlight that enough, because They are the future. They're the next generation. They are what are going to carry on society for all of us. So we have to protect the next generation. And I think I think it's absolutely baffling that anybody thinks that anybody that commits an offence of child sex, any child sexual perversion, whatever, abuse towards children should not face prison is absolutely insane. And that's my take on it. I can't. How are they going to learn not to do it again? Where is the deterrent for predators? What's going to stop them if they think, well, I probably will walk free from this, it's fine. And if we look historically over the past few years, especially the past few years, and I'm not just talking about high profile people, presenters, specifically, let's say BBC, that have walked free from court, from being involved with, whether it's grooming, whether it's watching, child pornographic content, whatever. They've walked free. So therefore, it's not really showing people who are predators any kind of deterrent, is it?
How does it fit in with the Me Too movement and feminism, with the prince can no longer kiss the princess in fairy tales, and yet on the other side you've got the grooming gangs, and you've got 1.5% of rape allegations end up in a prosecution. It's how do those two kind of fit together in our society?
Well, where's the logic?
Yeah,
there is no logic, because it's let's be quiet about this, and let's not let that into our brains, and that's not happening, because it's not good for the cause if we talk about that. But over here, the prince can't kiss the princess because, well, she's asleep. Did she consent? Oh gosh, why is it always the male kissing the? Oh, it's like, oh God, get a grip. Like, let's actually talk about something that is a problem, that is an issue, that is causing harm, not the make believe and made up and let's create a problem out of nothing. Really, I was just glad that Snow White woke up.
Yes. Exactly.
Like, moving on.
Moving on. Patrick Christys doesn't really fit into Snow White, but I think for all the criticism we have of GB News, which is valid, I think they have certainly highlighted the issue of grooming gangs with Charlie Peters, with Patrick Christys, with others. But let me play this. I think it's a 2-minute clip of Patrick Christys to give. I think it's good to give certainly the US viewers a taster of what GB News is putting out on this, and is highlighting, because it is the only national broadcaster on TV we have. So here is Patrick Christys.
Labour are going to do absolutely nothing about the grooming gang epidemic because they don't want to offend the Muslim community. Now, I want to warn you, in fact, I need to warn you, that we are discussing child sexual abuse, and I need to say to you that this is going to contain some very distressing content, including quite graphic details of child sexual exploitation and violence. Before the election, Jess Phillips, Labour's Jess Phillips, was running her mouth off.
We're a year on from the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. Years and years worth of evidence. Rishi Sunak is doing nothing. And today, exactly what happened in Rochdale is happening in every single part of our country.
Well, now that same Jess Phillips is in a position of power at the Home Office, and she has just rejected a national inquiry into rape gangs. Well, why do we think that is? I mean, I've got a little theory.
Yeah, go on, lad. Just watch him.
OK, so that's Rochdale Police Station there, and that was what appeared to be, anyway, Muslim men who were egging it and doing all sorts of stuff there in the wake of the alleged Manchester Airport incident. So I think that Labour might be a little bit afraid of aspects of the Muslim community. And I think to that I say, though, you're pathetic. Because when you read reports about a girl as young as 13 being gagged and gang raped, in other cases, men would have their names on a list by a door, and then they went inside and they'd rape a child and they'd put a tick by their name and they would pay it off at the end of the month. A girl is believed to have been killed, cut up, and put in kebabs before presumably being fed to members of the British public. These people are monsters, all right? But the Tories are, unfortunately, just as guilty as the Labour Party, because Kemi Badenoch came out and called for a national inquiry, all right? But then the Tories themselves actually did refuse an inquiry several years ago. They had 14 years to try to get this stuff right. Now, I don't actually think either of them care. They've not demonstrated that the people of Rotherham, Rochdale, Keighley, Oldham, Oxford, Aylesbury, Newcastle, Blackpool, they've not demonstrated to them that they care, have they, really? We made a massive deal over the infected blood scandal. More than 30,000 people in the UK were given treatments for infected with HIV, hepatitis C or Hep B. The post office scandal, 900 sub-postmasters were prosecuted. But right across the country, Pakistani men have been raping thousands of mostly vulnerable young working class white girls for decades. It was a bigger national scandal than anything else, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's time to have a full, independent national inquiry.
Patrick Christie certainly speaks to me. What are your thoughts? A plague on both our houses, he was kind of saying, in terms of the Conservatives and Labour.
Yeah, I don't think, again, going back to the whole left and right, I don't think it matters. I think that the most important thing here is that there is an independent inquiry and that we demonstrate that to the victims that something is going to be done, and that, all of this time, 14 years, or however long it's been going on and still continuing to go on, is disgusting. And seeing that Jess Phillips it really infuriates me. This is why I really don't trust the government. I try, Peter, I do, but I can't. When I see the video clip at the beginning of Jess Phillips, prior to them becoming in power, they're slating Rishi Sunak for not opening the inquiry and her listing all the places and that it's still going on. And then as soon as she's in that position, this is why I said a short while ago within this that she's not got any power. Like, there's people above her directing and saying, we can't do this, we can't do that. It's disgusting. You said that before you were in power. You made such a big point about it. And then when you are sitting there in the seat, you do nothing about it. Utter tosh. They really wind me up. I think it's disgusting and it's disgraceful. It really is. But I'm glad that Patrick Christie's actually said something on his show about it. I'm actually quite surprised that it was on mainstream news, because that's the other thing as well. I do feel like we are watching the demise of MSM. So especially with Elon Musk, having Twitter, not Twitter, X. Shouldn't call it Twitter.
It'll always be Twitter to many of us. Come on.
I know. He's just shown as well the importance of alternative media and independent journalists. I think it's great. Like, we've got the likes of Alex Phillips. She's on.
Yep.
She's a great journalist. A big fan of hers, and she covered Tommy Robinson interview, and there's many people that don't dare associate or do interviews or even mention his name, same as mentioning the Muslim gangs and what's gone on and what's been happening to these girls for years. Because also, it's like I feel like there can only be things said about a certain race or certain people. It's okay if it's white, but it's not okay if it's brown. So hold on a minute. If you're going to make such a big thing about race and diversity and inclusion, these are young white girls, children. Where's the issue with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we're gonna be fair and equal, when we're going to talk about, you know, race and what's right and what's wrong, then let's go there, because it's an issue, but it's not an issue that follows the narrative, is it? So
No.
that's why they want to disregard it. That's why they don't want to talk about it, and they don't want it at the forefront of people's minds.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't matter if people are late to the game. I know I'd doing work with Lord Pearson back in 2013 on this. But if someone is high profile and talks about it last week, then that's brilliant, because the issue needs to be highlighted. And I think Elon Musk has given people the freedom and the courage that they know, oh, if he's speaking now, I can speak. And that's great, because then people have grown a spine and they can speak maybe where they're afraid to before. I think that's good.
Yeah, it is good. And also, he may not have heard about it before. That's the whole point, because it's been brushed under the carpet. So it's great. It doesn't matter, like, when somebody gets on board with it and says that this is wrong, because they're highlighting that it's wrong. Yeah, I think it's brilliant that he's really opened it up. And even like, you know, for independent and alternative media, he's done so much, because they can't control him. And they're trying, you know, we know they try and stop or cancel or vilify anybody that goes against the narrative or goes against whatever it is that they're trying to plunge into our minds on a daily basis. But it's not working. You know, the whole wokeness and the feminism and the ideologies that they're trying to ram down our throats and get us to be okay with, it's not working. And the tide is turning, and I've always believed it will.
No, I agree. And here's something from reform. And again, we all have our issues with reform on, I think, Nigel putting his finger up and testing the win. But one of their MPs who has been very vocal, I think a revelation, is Rupert Lowe. And Rupert, one of their 5 MPs, put this up. I have calls lined up all afternoon. This is today on Friday, as we're recording it, Friday morning. I have calls lined up all afternoon with campaigners and victims of the rape gang scandal. If the government won't hold a proper inquiry, we will do it ourselves. Thank you to everybody who has got in touch. These atrocities go far deeper and far wider than we realise. To me, that's one of the with the many positive things from Elon putting this out, but having Rupert Lowe take this, and I think the respect that he has got from many of us in his short time so far as an MP, and that line, if the government aren't going to do it, we're going to do it. That's the attitude we need. And I'll be very excited to watch closely. I think we all will be, to see what Robert, the people he brings together, and what he actually reports back to the public on this.
I think Rupert Lowe is absolutely brilliant. I see his tweets. I follow him. I think he is one of very few people involved in politics that actually does say what is on the people's minds. He's not afraid to say what the issues are in this country. He's not afraid to highlight the statistics. He's not afraid to speak about what so many are. And I think that's why a lot of people do respect him. And I think that a lot of his tweets actually, they humanize like people in politics. He's so relatable. Like when he mentions things, you read it and it's like, yes, finally, it's been said. Somebody's saying it. So I think it's brilliant that he's put that out there. I didn't for a second doubt when I saw people tagging him in tweets yesterday, I think it was, wanting to get in touch with him. I saw Sammy Woodhouse. She's obviously been highlighting for many years about what happened to herself.
Yeah.
And many of the other victims, and speaking up for them. I saw a tweet of hers and she mentioned that she was getting in contact with him, and that, you know, she hopes that they could speak and hopefully do something. regarding the inquiry, and I think that's brilliant. I also saw Samantha Smith. She's another victim of the sexual child abuse, and she's been putting out brilliant tweets, as well about it, very informative. And I just think we need more people like that getting together with people like Rupert. And he's so
He's so measured.
He's so measured, but he's very balanced.
Yeah.
And he that's why I think he comes across very relatable, because he seems so open. He doesn't seem to shut things down. He just seems to, okay, thank you for contacting me about this. Let's talk about it. Like, I need to hear about it. I need to learn about it. And I think that what his special technique is he listens. He listens to the people, and people are fed up with not being heard, and like the false promises as well. We're told if we get in power, this is going to happen. If we do this, we're going to change this. It's rubbish. It never happens. But he seems to be somebody that so far puts his money where his mouth is. He's a man of his word. So I hope that something does come from it, and I hope that actually more people like Rupert get involved in politics and are actually given front positions within certain parties, like within, because I think we need people like him.
And here is the figure, the individual that's highlighted this for one of the longest times. And this, I think this blew us all away. Not only did Elon Musk put this up, free Tommy Robinson, but he had it pinned on his profile for, it was at least a day and a half. I think this morning he's unpinned it for something else. But I mean, he must be, because you can imagine the conversations that must be happening in the UK government. Tommy, of course, being jailed for 18 months for putting out a film to highlight the failure of our establishment, in effect. So a journalist puts out a film and gets jailed for 18 months. Where does Keir Starmer go with this? And also mention Robert Lowe from Reform. Where does Nigel go with this? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that they're probably becoming quite afraid of firstly, the transparency and the the openness of X that Elon Musk has created, because more and more people are now able to talk and say things that they want to say and upload what they want to. I think that they're scared of big figures like Elon discussing Tommy Robinson and the rape gangs, because they don't want it to be discussed. They want people to follow the narrative that is spun via their media and themselves and their press conferences and what they put out. They want people to believe that certain people are thugs or far right or villains, whatever, because it doesn't go with what they're trying to create in society and ram down our throats. So of course they're going to very much dislike it. And I think that they're afraid, because the truth is coming out more and more as each day passes. The tide is turning. People aren't accepting the wokeness. They aren't accepting the diversity rubbish anymore. It's not our strength. Clearly it's not. It's wrecking so many fundamental things in this country. And you're not a bad person for saying that. You're not racist. You're not ABCD phobic. You're not. It's going to come out, and they can't stop it. And I think that they actually realise, I hope that they're starting to realise that the power is with the people, and the power is with people that, such as Elon, who has created a platform effectively for the people to see and to speak freely. And I feel like the tide is turning, for the people. Yeah. So like, we're now creating our own media. We're now doing our own research. We're not relying on people that we've put faith in and believed in, for years and years in history. We're actually doing it ourselves. Like that that clip that you showed of Kia,
Yep.
that's been dug up from years ago, like, people are looking into these people that are in power, these people that are supposed to be representing us. They don't represent me. I never voted for them, and I think there's a lot of people that have that same stance. And I feel sorry for the people that actually did vote for them and believed that there would be change and believed that the things that they said in their manifesto would come to light, because they must be sitting here now and feeling completely let down and disappointed, and also revealing the corruption.
Yep. Yep. I want to something that maybe to finish with. I'll bring one other piece to finish with, but that Loza put up, and it's just interesting because the conversation that we have, and even the conversation on the grooming gangs, it seems as though a lot of it, well, Muslim Pakistani grooming gangs, you've got a cultural element, and it seems our media can maybe cope with that slightly, but there dare not be a religious element. But yet there seems to be a strong religious element if you read the history of Islam, the history of Muhammad, and you understand how it grew and spread by the sword. And Lawrence, I mean, along with Calvin calls them Mohammedans. Lawrence just sticks with Muslims. But Islam and the West are not compatible. Governments can continue to ignore that fact as things get much worse, or they can do what is needed: ban Sharia courts, ban face coverings, no blasphemy laws, no child marriage, no new mosques, no first cousin marriage, English speaking. These are all kind of common sense approaches, and they're all those points that Lawrence had put up. They're all conversations in many parts of Europe and conversations in the States. We're not really having those conversations here in the UK, but I like the way Lawrence phrased it, that you've asking, is Islam and the West compatible? It seems as though they're not when you look at a lot of what Islam promotes and teaches and aspires to. And we need to have this conversation in the UK, I think, similar to what they're having all across Europe.
I agree. I think that it's got to a point now where we can't hide away or shy away from the conversation, no matter who you are or whether you like it or not. It's got to be had. Proof is in the pudding, and statistics show more than anything that the conversation needs to be had, most definitely. And yes, I know that there were people that will watch this, or there's people online already that I've seen that are sharing and trying to kind of squash the whole point about it being Muslim Pakistani gangs, and that there are other child abuse gangs up and down the country that are white or what have you. So they're trying to kind of say it creates sort of some sort of race war or what have you. It doesn't matter who, first of all, what your skin color is. If you abuse a child, it's wrong, first and foremost. But if we're going to go there, one doesn't override another. So it's wrong regardless. But statistically, 96% of sexual crimes, acts against other people are non-whites. So let's not shy away from that conversation. And let's also understand the fact that when people come into this country, they should be open to our culture, our values, our laws, and the way we live. And it's not right to come here and harm children. It's not right to come here and attack people. It's not right to come here and think that you can impose your ideology, your law, your religion, your culture into what is already its own society and culture. So I think that we're not far from them being able. It's going to go the other way. It's going to go the other end of the spectrum, where it's going to be a conversation that we're not only going to have, that we're going to be having for quite some time, because it's been ignored and too much has happened. And I feel like this story with the children, and having to protect the children and the women as well. you know. But especially the children, it shouldn't have come to this, and it shouldn't have come for Elon to share it, for it to be now in the forefront of our minds and trending on X. It should have been dealt with when it happened, because had it have been dealt with originally when it first started, there wouldn't have been as many victims as there have been to this day, to present day.
Yeah, and many of us speak in this because it's not been spoken about, where there are other horrors actually that are spoken about and are highlighted, and that is good, because every injustice needs to be highlighted. But in some ways, often when you find an issue that isn't being highlighted, then go for that, because it's not getting that airtime and publicity.
Yeah.
I'll just bring up one. I want to bring up a picture. We'll not really touch on it, but I just want to refer to it, because Lord Pearson, who I've had the privilege of working with for 10 years, and he has talked about Islam in the House of Lords since certainly 2014, I think. He's had many debates, but he has highlighted the issue of the grooming gangs probably since 2017, I think. And when I gave him a ring the other day to say, hey, Elon Musk likes your videos, it was a interesting conversation. Someone, he is maybe not versed in social media because he is older, but I thought it was great for him to have that recognition as the only member in the House of Lords who has really highlighted the incompatibility of Islam, and one of maybe two or three who have touched on grooming gangs and been attacked for that. So it is great to see someone getting recognition, and maybe he can have Elon to the House of Lords for lunch someday. That would certainly freak out the establishment.
Oh my goodness, that would be so good. That would be a lot of fun. I'm sure that Elon would make sure that we'd all know about that.
Well,
I think people like him are brilliant, by the way. It's great that you're working with great people, and good for him for speaking up in there and highlighting it. I think it's really, really tragic that he's told off or scolded for mentioning it or bringing it up. It baffles my mind that anybody would be against talking and discussing about such an atrocity. I don't understand it. I do understand it. I know why. It's corrupt, but it's so disheartening to think that within that establishment he's shut down for speaking about it. We don't want to hear about that. You can't talk about that. Why?
Yeah.
What is so sacred, or what are they so scared of by talking about it? What are they trying to hide or facilitate or reveal? I don't get it.
Yeah, well, it's certainly one of the highlights I've had working with him was him giving Tommy a tour of Parliament along with Ezra and Gerard, and then giving them lunch. And you can imagine the authorities had some conversations with him after, putting the house at risk. I think that's what he was told he had done.
It sounds like he's a bit of a rebel. I like him.
Yes.
You need to bring him to lunch. Next time you come for lunch, next time you come for a barbecue, bring him with you.
That would be a fun conversation. So I may just take you up on that, Betty.
Yeah,
I may do.
You should. That would be. I'd love to meet him and speak with him, and shake his hand for doing the right thing, because everything aside, like I said, left, right, white, brown, whatever, it's wrong, and we need to focus on that at hand. That it shouldn't be happening, and it stops now. It's got to stop.
Well, it's thank God for Elon Musk, and it's good to look at positive news. And as you're getting a touch of English sun, I will let you go, and you can enjoy the rest of the day.
Oh, thank you, Peter. It's been great coming on. Sorry for all the ums and the and I'm me repeating myself, but it is what it is.
It's all good. Always love you coming on.
I will get better, I promise.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Take care. See you soon.
Bye.